All right. We got one guy watching. Hopefully we'll get a couple more people in. Oh, we got 5 people watching. Wow, that jumped up pretty quick. All right, good to see you guys. Those of you that are joining us. And once again, apologize for not sticking that out on Twitter. If you knew the type of day I was going through right now, you'd understand that we've been just swamped and couldn't get it out on Twitter in time. We wanted to make sure we got on at a decent time where we could get a decent number of viewers, so around 5:30. And also, I'm sure as you noticed, we're going a little casual today. It's not Friday, but decided to go casual Thursday. We're a little pullover here. Not something that we typically do at the Gridiron Expert, but we're making an exception for today. So those of you that are watching, thank you for joining us. If you are new, welcome to the Gridiron Expert. If you are not, welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis, and slowly becoming a very solid live stream here that we will be having every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, unless noted otherwise. So thank you guys for joining us on this short notice on this Thursday night, Thursday evening, ready to break down some college football and hear what you guys had to say in the live chat. So of course that's what really fuels these live streams. We get a lot of input from you guys. It really fuels the conversation, kind of keeps them going. Of course, we have a little bit of stuff we want to discuss ourselves. So thank you guys for joining us. And the first thing that I want to talk about, we're going to jump right on in. We don't have a whole lot of time. So, it's going to be a fairly short live stream. I know I've said that in the past, and we always run over. This time, it probably is going to be the case. So we have a couple things to talk about. Brandon Franklin, thank you for commenting. He said Satterfield is going to be a great coach for us. Petrino was abysmal. Of course, talking about the Louisville Cardinals. And we'll jump into that here in a minute. We actually discussed in one of our previous live streams, and we're actually going to shoot a video on that here very soon, all the head coaching changes in the FBS, in college football. Scott Satterfield coming over from Appalachian State to Louisville, a pretty good hire for the Cardinals, I would say, especially with the work that he did with the Mountaineers. Same geographic area, very beneficial for Louisville, who struggled mightily last year. Now, Bobby Petrino is a good football coach. Let's think about that for a second. His first stint at Louisville was fairly successful, did phenomenal things at Arkansas. Obviously, I think he would have maybe won or been in the national championship had the whole motorcycle scandal. That, of course, being at Arkansas back in 2012, and then going to Western Kentucky for a year, coming back to Louisville, had Lamar Jackson, but Bobby Petrino just never could seem. In a way, Bobby Petrino kind of reminded me a lot of Mark Richt in a sense that he could never win the big games. He had 2 good stints at Louisville, but when the games mattered the most, he just couldn't get the win. Had the talent sometimes. Last year, an abysmal year. Don't blame them for getting rid of him. Emperor of Rome, good to see you. Glad that you were able to join us tonight. Always glad when you're able to join the live chat or anytime you're able to catch our videos. Tucker Carlson, will Baylor ever be elite again? Now, here's what I will say. I was a big fan of the Art Briles era at Baylor. That high-flying offense, scoring a bunch of points, just barely missed out on the college football playoff. Brandon Franklin, you're welcome, man. I appreciate those comments. Appreciate you joining the streams and watching the videos. So thank you for joining us. As always, I'm always happy to talk football with you guys and answer your questions. Back to Tucker Carlson. Will Baylor ever be elite again? Matt Rule has got them on the right track. He is. I mean, if you watch Baylor in that bowl game against Vanderbilt, now the defense isn't there. But was Baylor ever known for their defense? Let's be honest. Is the Big 12, have they ever been known for their defense? No, they haven't. So Baylor is on the right track, especially offensively. I think they're slowly getting back to that point. 1-11 year 2 years ago, 7-6 this year, beating Vanderbilt in the Texas Bowl. What we ranked as the top bowl game of this 2018 postseason. High scoring, back and forth, getting a close, a big defensive stop there towards the end to secure the victory. Matt Rule's got them going in the right direction. The problem is Texas, every time your team gets on the rise, another team's rising with you. Texas is back. Iowa State is making some major moves. Of course, Oklahoma remaining the king of the Big 12. TCU had a rough year this past year, usually a big contender. I would expect Texas Tech to maybe get back to where they need to be with Matt Wells coming in as new head coach. So the Big 12 has a lot of talent. I'm not going to go as far as say Kansas is there yet, but they've got, Les Miles. Kansas could get there in a couple of years. Strong recruiting classes. Maybe Les Miles pulls off a couple upsets that he probably shouldn't win. Kansas could be getting there pretty soon. So, will Baylor be elite again? Yes. I believe that they will be. I think they're on the right track. They've got to keep recruiting, though. Texas, a very, very difficult state to recruit in, as we all know. But yes, Baylor, I do believe Tucker will become elite again. And I want to see that. It was fun seeing Baylor up there, number 4 in the country, number 5 in the country. That was a good time for college football. That was exciting. I mean, those games against TCU, I think back in like 2014, that was exciting. That was a fun time. In RG3, I felt like kind of got them back on the map, and then they slowly progressed. Solid quarterbacks. Bryce Petty was there. Trying to think of another one. They had a pretty good, honestly, pretty good run there. And of course, it all came crashing down, as most scenarios do when your coach gets fired for a scandal like that. Mike Myrick, good to see you. Always go Noles. So I'm very glad to see you join the chat. Blue Diablo says, "What are your predictions about Penn State?" And we always get a bunch of questions like predicting. And as you all know, that's what we pride ourselves on, are our predictions in the summer. We predict every FBS team, so like 68 teams, something like that. And then of course conference breakdowns for your group of 5. I'm not going to go too deep into Penn State right now. They lose a lot of production, of course, on the offensive side of the ball. Lost, what was it, Dwan Washington or Dwan Johnson? I can't remember, the big-time wide receiver. So many names slipping my mind. But big-time wide receiver transferring to Oregon. But then just got another one from Florida State. Once again, name slipping my mind. But James Franklin, I admire him as a head coach. He's a very solid head coach, underrated in my opinion. So, Juwan Johnson, legalized quack. Of course, he would know. Big-time Oregon fan. So, yeah, thank you. Penn State's going to, once again, contend in the Big Ten. I'm not going to give you a record prediction right now. That's going to come in summer, as I have not given a record prediction for any team that has been requested in these previous live streams. But Penn State is not going to see a huge, significant drop-off. It's just going to be a matter of can they pick up the offensive production, especially losing so much on that side of the ball. But I think they're still going to contend. In the Big Ten, without a doubt. John Hopkins, will Kelly Bryant help Missouri get more than 7 wins? Without a doubt. Missouri's winning at least 7 games, in my opinion. They have a tough schedule. They have a tough schedule. Blue Diablo, you're welcome, man. Good question. They have a tough schedule, without a doubt, and it sucks for Missouri. My biggest thing is, how's Barry Odom going to rally his troops knowing that they can't go to a bowl game? For me, that's extremely tough. As a player, yeah, you want to play for your school. You're playing for pride. Some of these players are playing. Kelly Bryant, for example, he didn't go to Missouri necessarily to win a national championship. He's going to Missouri because he thought that was the best fit for him to have a good season before he tries to go pro. Some of those players, that's their goals, to go pro, put up some good stats and good numbers. So, yeah, I think Missouri's going to win seven games, at least. But they're in a tough division. Florida, Georgia, Tennessee's on the rise. Vanderbilt was looking better under Derek Mason. Not saying they're going to beat Missouri, but they're getting better. So, it's going to take some time. But they'll get 7 wins, absolutely. Comic Dude 45, glad to see you back here as well. You and Emperor of Rome is always a pleasure. And yeah, the casual look, for those of you that's joining us, usually we're dressed up a little more professional than this, but we decided to take it a little casual today. Like I said, it's been a whirlwind of a day, so that's why we didn't get the announcement out on Twitter. That's why we're taking a little bit casual today, just taking it a little bit easy. So, but yeah, if you guys like it, maybe we'll keep it up a little bit more. Who knows? Michael Brennan. How will Novatos Reno do in March Madness? And switching over to basketball for a second, I'll touch on that for a brief second. Nevada doing a phenomenal job in basketball, made a heck of a run last year, I think all the way to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 last year. And I think this year they're in the prime position to clinch at least a top 4 seed, probably around a 4 seed, I would think, for Nevada, maybe 5, depending on how they finish strong. Just lost to San Diego State last night. Wouldn't see it. I don't think it's out of the question to see Nevada making another run to the Sweet 16. That's my take. They are a very dangerous team, despite being in the Mountain West. I know they haven't played a whole lot of people, but they have enough talent there, especially senior-led team, plenty of talent there to make a run to at least the Sweet 16, if not farther. And that wouldn't be a huge surprise. It was a surprise last year. This year, people are going to know not to take Nevada for granted, not to overlook Nevada. Brandon Franklin, do I think this is a very good question. We're getting a lot of stuff in the chat. We're not going to overlook those comments. We appreciate you guys for keep the questions coming. We're going to hit all of them there. But this was a very good question asked just a second ago from Brandon Franklin. Do I think that Clemson and Alabama dominance in recruiting and the college football playoff is bad or good for college football? And I know our good friend over at Mark Rogers TV, he did a video here recently about the dominance between Clemson and Alabama. And, for some people, it's getting old seeing Alabama and Clemson repeatedly playing each other. What was this, the fourth straight meeting in the college football playoff, the third time for a national championship? And, to me, it was very reminiscent of the Cavaliers and Warriors. Were people getting tired of that in the NBA Finals? I was. People will say, "No, this is great. This is like the old Lakers Celtics," and it was. It was great. It was fun to watch for a little bit. After a while, it gets old though, and you want to see someone new get in there. Here's my thing though. Maybe it's bad for college football because people get tired of it, but it is become a heck of a rivalry. And here's the thing: Alabama and Clemson just make up half of the college football playoff. There are two other teams there. Now, maybe Alabama and Clemson have to play each other in a semifinal matchup like they did 2 years ago in the Sugar Bowl, but there are two other teams out there that could try to take care of business, and they're not getting it done. Oklahoma couldn't get it done this year. Notre Dame couldn't get it done this year. We had Oklahoma playing Georgia. That was in the semifinal matchup, but who was it? Michigan State couldn't get the job done against Alabama. Ohio State couldn't get the job done against Clemson. So there have been multiple teams that haven't been able to defeat Alabama or Clemson in the college football playoff or even in the regular season to prevent them from even getting there. Recruiting, that's just what it is. You want to go to a program that's going to produce results where you know that you're going to get, that your talent is going to be coached well enough to maybe you can get to the next level. That's why I would choose to go to an Alabama or a Clemson or somebody like that, because they're going to, I know I'm going to go to one of the top schools in the nation with some of the best coaches in the nation that are going to not only where I'm going to go win, where I'm going to win games and compete for a national title year in and year out, but I'm also going to be able to improve my skills that'll potentially help me get to the NFL. So bad for fans, maybe, if you're not an Alabama or Clemson fan, but in a sense, I think it is, in a slight way, kind of good for college football. It can get boring at times, but there are plenty of opportunities out there for people to stop that, to shut that down. All right, that's a good question. Very good question. John Lampro, stop being biased against Georgia, please. We all know you're biased fake news. I don't remember the last time I talked bad about Georgia in a very, very long time. And I, once again, as many of you know, I don't have any bias towards any team. I don't know my relationship to a certain team or if I have a dislike towards a certain team does not sway who I talk about, how I talk about them, how I predict them. If I put them up on a board, if I don't, that's no way to run a channel. So if I've come off as biased towards hating Georgia, I apologize. That's definitely not my intention. But whenever I don't choose against Georgia because I don't like them. I have nothing against Georgia. I never have, probably never will. So, but I do apologize for that if that's the case. But that doesn't happen very often. Carson Bailey, good to see you. Glad you joined the chat. Georgia is coming up. That was from Brandon Franklin. They're definitely making a run for sure. Let's see, Bradley Fernandez. What's your take on the Matt Wells hiring for Texas Tech? And as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, we had a live stream out and we talked a lot about the head coaching changes. And I've still got that list in front of me right now of all the head coaching changes. We kind of broke down each one. Got a good response from you guys in the chat about that. Look, Matt Wells did a phenomenal job at Utah State. Developed a very potent offense with Jordan Love at quarterback. Nearly upset Michigan State in the season opener this past year. Won, 10 games, 11 games? And I think they annihilated North Texas in their bowl game. So he did a great job out there. I'm not dogging that. But you're coming over to the Big 12 now. And the reason Texas Tech wanted him is because of the way that he produced such very powerful offenses at Utah State. The Big 12 is an offensive, conference. They put up lots of points. Big 12, as we mentioned earlier in the stream, they're not known for their defense. We know that. So he's going to fit in well with a Texas Tech school that wants to keep that kind of same style of high-octane offense that Cliff Kingsbury had. Cliff Kingsbury just didn't have a defense, and occasionally his offense just couldn't get there. But I saw a post recently about the amount of the great quarterback play that Texas Tech has had over about the past decade. And some of that kind of gets overshadowed. People don't think about it. Quarterbacks that are forgotten. We all know about Pat Mahomes. Nick Shymanek was good. Graham Harrell, he was good. Cliff Kingsbury was a quarterback there. Baker Mayfield was there, of course, before transferring to Oklahoma. So, but to get to your question, I think it's a very interesting hire, and I think Texas Tech fans have to be patient because I do not think Matt Wells will come in here and just whip this team around immediately and kind of get them in contention for a Big 12 title or maybe even get them to a bowl game this year. It's going to take time, but I think they can truly get there. You got to start low. People don't like seeing coaches come from maybe smaller schools or as an assistant, but you got to start somewhere. And that's what Matt Wells is doing. I think he is the right man for the job. I was skeptical, but I think he can get the job done, but you've got to give him time. Got a couple more questions here. We're trying to catch up on them. Carson Bailey, who do I think will win, Oregon or Auburn? So another prediction question. Legalized Quack said he saw Auburn was favored by 1.5 points in Vegas very early. And of course, if you don't know, Oregon and Auburn squaring off in the season opener. I think that game being played in Arlington, Cowboy Stadium, favored by 1.5 points early in Vegas, Auburn. And I would, I'm not one to predict early. I'm not, but I would go as far to say that I would pick Oregon in that game. Now, of course, that could change. It's February. Wait till June or July when we do these predictions, and wait and see. But I'd go as far as to say right now that Oregon's going to take care of business in that game. Auburn, decent recruiting class. This is a make or break year, I think, for Gus Malzahn. He's got to get Auburn to 8 wins, at least, to maybe save his job. It was a very disappointing year this year with the amount of talent they had. They lose Jarrett Stidham. Oregon's bringing in a very strong recruiting class, gets Justin Herbert back. So, that's going to be a fun game, though. Of course, a national championship rematch all the way back in 2010, 2011, so that will be fun to watch. George Stice, where do I go to college? For some of you guys that don't know, of course I am in college. I'm filming this out of the dorm room right now. I know we're very low budget, but I do attend Arkansas State University, Sunbelt, Red Wolves, so we're getting the job done. We're here for academic purposes. We're not here for the sports per se, but I'm not one of those big Power 5 schools, but we're getting the job done. So we definitely are enjoying our time here for sure. Comic Dude 45, Ohio State has struggled to get in the college football playoff due to getting blown out by Big Ten West teams on the road. And exactly right. I mean, that's Purdue, Iowa, end of story. Ohio State wins either of those games, or even if they keep those games close. If they had kept the game against Purdue and Iowa close, they may have been able to sneak into the college football playoff. But they just got blown out twice. And yeah, on the road, sure. But yeah, that's exactly right. Those are the 2 games that have kept Ohio State out of the playoff these past couple of years. So absolutely. Christopher Smith, good to see you. You've come a couple times, so glad to see that you're joining the chat. Emperor of Rome, another good question. I saw it pop up earlier. I had to answer in mind. I had to wait to get there. Is there an FCS team that could be a contender in the FBS? Define contender, but I would go, I think everybody knows, North Dakota State. Without a doubt. North Dakota State has been kind of the talk of the FCS, multiple national titles. Of course, Chris Kleiman, I believe that's how you pronounce it, going to take the job at Kansas State because he had a relationship with their athletic director, who was the former athletic director at North Dakota State. Multiple national championships there with the Bison. And I don't expect to see a drop off from North Dakota State. They beat Iowa a couple years ago. They beat Kansas State years and years ago, back in like 2012. They've hung with a good number of schools, maybe not being able to beat them. Christopher Smith, good point. James Madison has pulled off a handful of upsets or given teams some scares over the past couple of years. So I would say those are your top 2, and those are usually your top 2 contenders in the FCS anyways. But I would say, yeah, my number 1 would be North Dakota State, James Madison second. But contender, where would you stick them? Would you stick them in a Power 5 school or a Power 5 conference, or would you stick them in a group of 5? I don't think they would come in. It would take them a very, very, very long time to even consider competing for like a New Year's Six bowl game or college football playoff. But I think they could get in fairly quickly and compete for a bowl game, a bowl berth, that's a huge transition coming from FCS to FBS. We've seen that. We know that. So, but I do think that those are your top 2 schools, and I think they could compete fairly quickly for a position like that. Brandon Franklin, do you think Tate Martell will end up having a better career than Justin Fields? He sure looked like the better player to me. Tate Martell, in my opinion, should have stuck around and tried to fight for his job at Ohio State. He didn't even put forth any effort. And maybe he knew something that we didn't. But once again, we've addressed this over and over and over again, how Tate Martell was like, hey, why is Justin Fields going to come here? He thinks he's going to come take the starting job. He hasn't put any work into this program. And within a week, Tate Martell was out transferred to Miami, and Justin Fields is going to more than likely be the starter at Ohio State in the fall. Tate Martell's a very good football player. So is Justin Fields. I would go as far as say in this year, in 2019, I think Tate Martell, assuming he plays, will do better than Justin Fields. Long term, though, it might be Justin Fields that ends up being better in a better position, in a better fit. Now, Tate Martell's got a very good offensive coordinator in Miami right now, and Dan Enos, who knows how to work with quarterbacks. We saw that at Arkansas. We saw it at Central Michigan. We saw that at Alabama. But Ohio State, I think is going to take care of business with Justin Fields. So, two very solid quarterbacks. I would have loved to see the competition between the two of them. But, of course, Tate Martell backing out and going down to Miami, where I think he will thrive and do well there. Of course, you don't want to spend your entire college career as a bench warmer and a backup. 1 second here. Let me fix one thing. And we will jump right back into this chat. Of course, the super chat is still on. If anybody would like to contribute, those are always appreciated. Any small amount is greatly appreciated. Your support coming to this live chat here on a Thursday night and just watching and contributing to the chat is appreciated more than anything else. But of course, super chat is on. If any contribution would help out greatly, as we are definitely trying to invest in some new mics and some new camera equipment to make, especially prediction season, better for you guys, for us, and for you guys as the viewers. So looking through the rest of the chat, make sure I didn't know we're looking. Oh, Mike Myrick. Let's see. Florida State hiring Randy Clements as their offensive line coach. Well, my thoughts on that? I mean, that's Uncle Lou. Hold on, before I even go on to that, Uncle Lou, I appreciate that more than you know, man. That means a lot. $10 super chat. That means a whole lot, man. I appreciate that. Thank you for joining the chat. I always enjoy watching your content. Maybe we should reach out sometime, work on some collaboration stuff. I mean, that right there means a lot. Truly appreciate it. Same to you. Keep up the good work. You've got some great stuff over at your channel. So definitely appreciate that more than you know. Mike Myrick, Randy Clements, offensive line coach at Florida State. I think he's going to do some good things there. Of course, coached Houston's offensive line from early 2000s, but he hasn't been in the game in a while. But I mean, he's coached high school, coached multiple different stops. Florida State is just struggling so much on the offensive side of the ball. They need as much help as they can get. I think they're going to get that out of Clements, but you just got to have to wait and see. Florida State needs to focus on finding a quarterback first, more than anything else. Many people thought it could have been Josh Jackson. Of course, he just transferred to Maryland, a big-time get for the Terrapins. So focus on getting a quarterback first, and then the offensive line needs to protect that quarterback. Once again, huge shout out to Uncle Lou. Yes, it is Casual Thursday. I know, usually we're decked out in a suit and tie. Today we're taking a little breeze. Like I said, it's been a hectic day. Wanted to get on here and talk to you guys. Just didn't have time to get all snazzed up and get out on Twitter, but appreciate that super chat more than anything else. And appreciate that, Uncle Lou. He said, it's a hard time of the year for college football YouTubers. Channels like mine help get through the off season. And yeah, I mean, it is a tough time. You can only talk so much. We love talking predictions, and then once you get to the regular season, you can talk about the games and the stuff going on. But in the off season, guys, you can talk a little bit about recruiting. You can talk some about quarterback transfers, but you struggle to find some even grounds and some content to discuss. We're always digging. We're always trying to find stuff, and that's why we appreciate your content, your feedback of things that we can talk about. And of course, we're trying to come out. We have a handful of videos now that we are going to try to produce and have out over the next couple of weeks. So, Uncle Lou, the kind words, the contribution, and the stuff that you put out on your channel, greatly appreciated. Help that out. We appreciate your help and kind words as always. So keep up the good work over on your end as well. Christopher Smith, who do I think birthed Clemson's success? Because I think it's people, or I say it's people like Taj Boyd and Deshaun Watson. Or he says he sees people that say it's Deshaun Watson, Taj Boyd. Yeah, Taj Boyd, I would say. If you think about it, guys, Dabo Swinney came in, and Clemson was middle of the pack ACC. Dabo Swinney came in and quickly turned Clemson around. They really became a national force. I would say they won the Orange Bowl. What year was that? 2013, 2012, 2013. I think over Ohio State. And that was with Taj Boyd. And then, of course, Deshaun Watson came in. Chad Morris, now the head coach of Arkansas, was offensive coordinator at Clemson, was a big reason for that success and a big reason for even getting Deshaun Watson to Clemson. So he helped out on that side of the ball for Clemson. And then Dabo Swinney has kind of continued to go from there, even after the departure of Chad Morris to SMU. Brent Venables, solid defensive coordinator, probably one of the best defensive coordinators, if not the best defensive coordinator in all of college football. That is a major focus as well. But quarterback-wise, starts with Taj Boyd, continues to go from there. You had Deshaun Watson, you had Kelly Bryant, you have Trevor Lawrence now. And the fact that they continue to succeed so well, their recruiting classes ain't going to stop. They're going to continue to get strong recruiting classes, and Clemson is once again going to continue to remain a force until someone can prove them otherwise and really threaten them in the ACC. And right now, I don't think anybody can do that. There's not a team in the ACC right now that I think could truly challenge Clemson going into 2019. All right, let's see what else we got here. Some very good chats going. Bull Nut says, do I think Trace McSorley will get drafted? And if he does, who do you think he'll get drafted by? Now, we are strongly considering doing a mock draft. We did that last year. We put a little bit of work into that. Mock drafts are extremely difficult to do. And, of course, we don't want to go out there and have a mock draft that looks exactly like, Mel Kiper's or someone else, one of those ESPN analysts. We don't want to replicate that. Trace McSorley, I would say, this is a decent quarterback class. But the two big quarterbacks coming out, of course, Dwayne Haskins and Kyler Murray, who, in my opinion, should have stuck with baseball. But Dwayne Haskins, many are predicting, will go to the Giants at around number 6. Kyler Murray, maybe shortly after that, to the Jaguars or somewhere around there. Although Cliff Kingsbury did come out and say, that he would strongly consider drafting him number 1, or would like him number 1. Although he would be crazy to do that, as the Cardinals do have Josh Rosen, who I think can be developed into a decent quarterback and need some help on the defensive side of the ball. I think Nick Bosa is projected to be the number 1 overall pick, and he's just got too much talent for the Cardinals to pass him up, even for a guy like Kyler Murray. So, do I think McSorley will get drafted? Yes. Late round. I'm thinking 4th, 5th round, probably. Who will he get drafted by? Who knows? Quarterback needs are everybody. I mean, even the Patriots could draft a quarterback this season. I know they drafted Danny Etling as of last year, but the Patriots are going to have to start preparing for the future after Tom Brady. I'm not saying that's where Trace McSorley is going, but any team could always get a quarterback because they've got to prepare for their future. Could be their next franchise quarterback, or it could be the guy they choose to have waiting in the wings for when their franchise guy's out, they can come and step in, learning from the best. So a guy that's going to back up Aaron Rodgers, a Drew Brees, a Tom Brady. And, of course, we mentioned our last live stream, we are going to very soon come out with our rankings for every NFL quarterback. We're going to rank all 32, break them down, who we think is the best and who we think is the worst going into the 2019 season. And that's coming out very, very soon. We're still working on that. It takes a lot of thought process. We got to really analyze that and think that through a lot. Legalized quack. Georgia lost a basketball game because of a stuffed animal. They did. Saw that last night, catching the highlights of that. If you didn't watch, Georgia at Mississippi State, or Mississippi State at Georgia, questionable call. He certainly got fouled there towards the end. A stuffed animal was tossed onto the court. Regardless, Mississippi State were going to get free throws. That just gave them an extra free throw. And Georgia did end up losing by, I believe, 1 point to Mississippi State. Now, bigger win for Mississippi State in terms of trying to get to the NCAA tournament. Georgia, not even close to the running. Just 10 wins on the year. And I think only 1 conference win in SEC play. But a very funny way and an unfortunate way to potentially lose a game. Comment Dude 45, should they make a Heisman Trophy for every single position like the Oscars? They kind of have that. It's just not named the Heisman. I mean, they have a bunch of different awards for, best wide receiver in the game, for best, center in the game, for best kicker. I mean, they have those awards out there. The Mackey Award goes to the best tight end. So in a way, they kind of already have that. It's just not named the Heisman Trophy. So no, I don't. Those to me, to me is basically what that is. If you win one of those awards, you are being named the best at your position in the entire nation. The Heisman just goes to the best player overall, any position. But then you've got them individually for each position after that. But they have a quarterback. Even if you got Kyler Murray, he can win multiple. He can win the Heisman. Then what can he win? Like the Walker Camp Award, or Walter Camp Award. I mean, there's so many awards that even the Heisman winner can win on top of that. So, I wouldn't go that far for that. Yeah, you're right. They're still prestigious. And the Heisman Trophy is what everybody knows. It is the most prestigious by far. That's what everybody is aware of. But, as a tight end, in my opinion, a tight end is never going to win the Heisman Trophy. So to win the Mackey Award, to say I'm the best tight end in all of college football, that's a pretty big accomplishment. Christopher Smith, this could be a stretch. I didn't really watch Penn State, but could McSorley be like Taysom Hill? They have that it factor, they have a toughness to them. I could be completely wrong, but what are your thoughts? Taysom Hill, for those of you that don't know, former BYU quarterback, now playing a major role on the Saints, especially on special teams, and occasionally coming in as a more like dual threat quarterback for the Saints. Inside the 5-yard line in the red zone, they might stick Taysom Hill in there to kind of bulldoze his way into the end zone. McSorley doesn't necessarily have the size of Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill to me is a little bulkier. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they'd say, okay, McSorley, you're not going to be a quarterback. I mean, many times you see that in the NFL. Hey, kid, you're good. You've got that it factor to you. But we need to move you from, quarterback to wide receiver. We need to move you from, wide receiver to tight end or something like that. I mean, even and some people are too stubborn to do that. They wanted to move Tim Tebow to tight end. That would have been a great fit for him. I think he'd still be playing in the NFL right now if he wasn't that stubborn. I mean, he's got a great career as a broadcaster for SEC Network, and then could make himself a career out of baseball, maybe. But Julian Edelman was a quarterback coming out of college from Kent State. Now he's the Super Bowl MVP because he switched from quarterback to wide receiver. So Trace McSorley, if he decides not to stay at quarterback, yeah, he could play a role like Taysom Hill, but that's just to be determined. Depends on which team drafts him. Brandon Franklin, what was the worst coaching hire of this year? That's a great question. The worst coaching hire of the year. There wasn't one that truly stood out to me that I was like, that's not going to work out. I was, like I said, very, very skeptical about Matt Wells, but I think he, in the end, is going to be good for Texas Tech. Hugh Freeze going to Liberty. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. They are Hugh Freeze is using Liberty as a platform to coach there for a year, maybe 2, and then jump and take a Power 5 job. We've seen that we've seen multiple coaches do that. Hugh Freeze has done it before. Gus Malzahn's done it. Brian Harsin's done it. Bobby Petrino's done it. I mean, that's what coaches do. They go to a smaller school, do well there for a year or 2, wait until a better job opens, and they both jump ship. And I can't say I blame them, but I think that was a very interesting hire by Liberty, considering how they operate their school. They're a very religious school, and Hugh Freeze, after what he did at Ole Miss, that was kind of odd, but you could go as far as say that's the worst hire. I don't know if you can say that many of these hires don't fit. I love Dana Holgorsen going to Houston. I love Manny Diaz at Miami. I'm skeptical a little bit of Mack Brown at North Carolina. That causes me a little bit of concern. I don't know if that's going to work out well. I mean, he had a stint at North Carolina a long time ago before he went and took the Texas job. Can he replicate that success? North Carolina certainly needs it. So, but that's always a dangerous thing to do, especially after being out of the coaching game for so long. Which really, it's only been about 5 or 6 years, but still. Basic trash. Do I like Clemson? I have nothing against Clemson. They're not my team per se, but I don't have anything against them. I've enjoyed seeing them do well. I have a lot of respect for Dabo Swinney. I have a lot of respect for their program. So I don't have anything against Clemson. I really don't have anything against any team, honestly. Like I said, this is a very unbiased channel, so there's nothing. I have nothing against Clemson or really any team out there. Some people think I'm biased especially some SEC people think I'm biased against Georgia or against LSU. Some people think I'm biased against Michigan, just based on how I predict. But I don't predict. I don't let my emotions get in the way of how I predict a certain team. It's just what we think, and most of the time, 76% of the time, sometimes more, we're right. Patriots GOAT, I subbed. Really appreciate that. For those of you that are in the chat, if you're not subscribed, please consider doing that. The subscribers have really died down as of late. We haven't been able to get as many as we wanted. So I really appreciate you doing that. We need as many as we can. We would love to have 2,000 subscribers by the end of March. So that would be awesome. If you guys could help us out, get us to 2,000 by the end of March, because I'm hoping things will certainly pick up in summer when we hit these predictions with a full steam ahead. So help us out, get us to 2,000 subscribers by the end of March. That would be awesome. Maybe the end of April, but we'd love to have it by March. Basic Trash, love your videos. Really appreciate that. You guys saying that means a lot, and you just subbed as well, so appreciate that a lot as well. That's 2 subscribers already. Let's keep them coming. Tell your friends, your family, your co-workers, anybody that is just a big fan of college football as much as we are here at the Gridiron Experts, as much as you guys are that sit around in our chats and help us out. Do it. Let's get us going. Let's get us rolling. So we definitely do appreciate that. John Hopkins, will Herman Edwards have a better year at Arizona State? Well, he already had a pretty good first year. That was one that people were very, very skeptical of. Herm Edwards taking the job with the Sun Devils, and I loved that hire. I love Herm Edwards, and he did a pretty good job in his first year. Took care of business, a very strong start, beating Michigan State out in the desert, then losing to San Diego State. That was a killer. And then, of course, losing to Fresno State in their bowl game. But he got them there. He got them to a bowl game. Todd Graham didn't even do that, I don't think, in his last year. Oh, no, I take that back. They lost to North Carolina State. But he ended up losing that game. So, I think he's definitely got a lot of talent at Arizona State. I wouldn't go as far as say he's going to have a better year. I think he's going to stay around the same. Year 3 is when coaches really start to hit their stride. So this year, I would expect another bowl eligibility, another bowl berth. Year 3, let's see if he can crack that 8-win mark, that 9-win mark, really make some strides for it. But I think he was a great hire and got a really bad rap when they hired him. I really do. But I'm excited to see what he has planned. Let's see here. Alex Kidd, awesome. Who do you think will be the biggest surprise team of 2019? It's a good question. There are a lot of people that are getting a lot of hype. A&M's getting a lot of hype. Oregon's getting a lot of hype. Texas is getting a lot of hype. And, Texas is getting a lot of hype, but they're to be expected. The way they finished the year, they're expected to do extremely well. So I would say Texas A&M, Oregon. People are throwing Utah out there. People are saying Florida. I would say Texas A&M and Oregon are my 2 teams that I've got my eye on extremely well, especially with the way that they finished and the people that they return. Can they make some noise in the Pac-12 and the SEC, respectfully, and maybe make a run towards their conference title game or a New Year's Six bowl game? Those would be my 2 teams I'm really keeping an eye on that are getting a lot of hype, but maybe people aren't buying into it. So we'll have to play that by ear. I just saw that one pop up. Christopher Elser. Gridiron Experts, the real deal. Went to high school with this guy, and his predictions were always solid. And Christopher Elser is the real deal. Good friend of mine. Glad to see you joining the live chat, my man. Hope things are still going well. We need to get in touch here soon, absolutely. But, hey, thanks for joining us, and I hope things are still going well where you're at. I'm not going to give anything away here on the channel, but good to see you. Shoot me a text sometime, or I'll do one afterwards. We need to get in touch again. Basic Trash just subbed. I appreciate that. John Hopkins just subbed. I definitely appreciate that. That means a lot. Brandon Franklin, we touched on that last live stream. Should the College Football Playoff expand to 8 teams or more, or keep it as it is? I said they should expand, although it's not going to happen. I think it'd be better to move it to at least 8. Even 6 would be better in my opinion, but at least 8 would be fine. It's just not going to happen. If it is going to happen, it's going to be a very, very long time until it does. So be aware of that. I think it would be better for the game, period, every year. And the thing is, you're never gonna stop hearing about teams that feel like they're left out. Right now we've got 4 teams. The guy that's number 5 and number 6 feel like they're left out. You move to 6, 7, 8 feel like they got snubbed. You move to 8, 9, 10 feel like they're. You've got to have a cutoff somewhere, but Number 8. I think 8 teams is where it needs to stop. I think that's the best place to be. Is number 8. 8 teams in the college football playoff. If they don't want to go that far, do 6 and give the number 1, number 2 teams a bye. That's what I would do. And the NFL does 6 teams. The NBA does 8 teams. You know, I don't see why it would be that hard. I mean, March Madness does 64. Certainly not going to do that for the playoff, but would not be opposed to seeing something like that. I would not be opposed to seeing expansion. It's just not going to happen anytime soon. Basic Traster, I think Dabo Swinney is a good coach. Absolutely. They wouldn't be where they're at right now without Dabo Swinney. So absolutely he's a good coach. And I truly believe that when Nick Saban retires from Alabama, that Dabo Swinney will leave and take the Alabama job. That's just my opinion. In Alabama, for the people that are tired of seeing the Bama dominance, probably should get used to it because Bama's going to hire another big-name coach. I believe it's going to be Dabo Swinney, who played college football at Alabama during his career. It's my gut feeling that it's what's going to happen. And I think he would do extremely well at Alabama as well. Comic Dude 45, little disagreement. That's all right. I don't fully agree with the whole third year is when coaches start to hit their stride, because in the third year, I've noticed that they either have a breakthrough year or they completely crap the bed. People say third year because that's usually, you're slowly getting rid of the previous regime's players. So you bring in a coach that's wanting to bring in a new offensive scheme or just a new scheme altogether. You can just kind of implement that with the players that you recruit, and around year 3, year 4 is when you can start to implement that. And that doesn't always mean it's going to work out. So you're right. Sometimes year 3 they go through the roof, or sometimes they really tank. And I have noticed that as well. That usually year 3 is when people are getting really excited. Oh, this is the year that we're going to break through, that we might compete for the conference championship, the year that we might win 8 games, 9 games, whatever your expectations are. And they usually don't exceed those expectations. They underachieve. So it just depends. I think it depends on the coach. I think it depends on the team. I think it depends on the system. And the system is a very major part. And, of course, it all relies on the coach. Mina Aldawane, do I see James Harden winning the MVP again this year? If he takes care of business like he has been, he continues his streak of 30 points in a game. I think he's up to 31 now. And I think they have the Lakers tonight against LeBron. But if he continues that, there's no doubt in my mind he wins MVP. Who's going to compete against him? Giannis with the Bucks? Maybe. But right now, it's James Harden. In my eyes, it's James Harden all the way. Because the Rockets were extremely struggling until he really just hit it into another gear, kicked into high gear, and started doing well. Bradley Fernandez, what's the ceiling for Alan Bowman? He played well with Texas Tech this year. Can Matt Wells? Cliff Kingsbury knew how to coach an offense, knew how to coach his quarterbacks. Can Matt Wells do the same? He did pretty well at Utah State with Jordan Love. He put up some decent numbers there. Can he do that here with Alan Bowman, who, Texas Tech has to really replicate that strong offense to contend in the Big 12. So Alan Bowman's ceiling, I think, is very high. As I mentioned earlier, Texas Tech has been known for having extremely strong quarterbacks, sometimes very underrated and forgotten quarterbacks over the past decade. So I would say his ceiling is high, absolutely. I would say, but will it happen this year? Will it happen next year? We'll have to wait and see. Take some time with a new head coach. With the good recruits Florida has, can they get revenge on Kentucky and Lexington? That's from John Hopkins. Now, Kentucky, yes, I think Florida can. I'm not saying they will, but I think they can beat Kentucky in Lexington. Congratulations, of course, to Kentucky for ending that streak, almost 30 games, 31 games, to Florida in the swamp. Well, no better place to do it this past year. But Kentucky losing a lot of stars, both offensively and defensively. And Florida certainly going on the rise. Now, Kentucky's on the rise as well. Mark Stoops doing a phenomenal job, but he's got to be able to replace that talent. Being at home is going to help them, but if I had to choose right now, I'd be leaning towards the Gators' way and Dan Mullen, because he's certainly building something there. Florida really going to contend for the SEC East title this year. Of course, going to have to get past Georgia. That game will certainly decide who wins the SEC East. Emperor of Rome, what sports league has the worst playoff system? And we just talked about the college football playoff here. I've mentioned the NFL. How when you get calls and texts, it's we have a couple of, so it just went black here. Hold up. He always screws up a little bit. But when you got 4 teams here, I would almost go as far as say it's college football. It's college football playoff, man. I hate the playoff system. I really do. It needs to expand. I think it'd be better. I like the NFL. I think 6 teams is enough because you want to when you have a league, you want to make sure that the teams that get into the playoff are deserving. You don't want to put any teams in there that aren't deserving. The NBA, for example, they do the top 8 from the East and the West, and right now there are 3 teams in the NBA East that have a record of 500 or below, and that's just because that conference is so weak. But they can't change the format. I think 8 teams is fine. It comes down to really how many teams. One thing I would change, I'll take that back. The one thing I would change is in the MLB, I do not like how the wild card game is just one game. You know, you have the divisional round, you know, the NLDS, ALDS, and those are usually, what, best of 5, maybe best of 7 now. But the wild card is only one game, and I strongly disagree with that. And I think that needs to change. Will it? No. You can make it. I don't think it needs to be a best of 7 series by any means. Make it a best of 3. One team, each team gets a home game, and then you get the rubber match going to the team with the better record or whatever. But I think that needs to change in the MLB, and I would say the college football playoff needs to expand. I think those are my top 2 options there for what needs to change for a playoff system. I like the way the NBA is set up. I like the way that the college basketball postseason set up. I like the Stanley Cup playoffs for NHL, and I like the NFL playoffs. I think those are all fine. Some people think the NFL playoffs should expand a little bit. Wouldn't go that far. I think 6 is fine. First round bye for the 1, 2, 3, 6, 4, 5 play each other. That's my thoughts. Brandon Franklin, have we thought about doing a college basketball channel? A little bit. I don't devote too much time to college basketball. We can talk about it here a little bit. We'll of course have a special out for March Madness. We'll discuss the NCAA tournament. We like to talk a little bit about NBA, but nothing fully dedicated to college basketball. No, we want to stick with college football as much as possible. With these live streams, of course, we can always stray to other sports. But no, we haven't really put much thought into making a separate channel for college basketball. But if that is something that you think or that enough of you would consider watching, if you're into that, we'll certainly take that into consideration because we do watch our fair share. When football ends, we just immediately transition to basketball. Bradley Fernandez, what's the best college football game you've ever seen live? Now, what do you mean by live? Watching it on TV live or watching it like in person live? Because that is a very, very good question. TV-wise, I would say, man, there have been so many. I would say certainly that Rose Bowl a couple years ago, Georgia, Oklahoma, that was phenomenal. I had, no stake in that game, wasn't biased towards Oklahoma, wasn't biased towards Georgia, had no, relation to any of them, but that was just one heck of a ball game. The Clemson-Alabama matchup was at 35-31. That was a heck of a game as well. That was a very fun game to watch. Go back as far as game of the century, Alabama-LSU. 9-6, LSU winning that game. Even though it was low scoring, some people consider it boring. I thought that was a great game and how a game between the number 1 team in the country and the number 2 team in the country should have been played. I was at the Sugar Bowl in 2011, Arkansas, Ohio State. That was a heck of a ball game. That was a very fun one to watch there. I mean, there have been so many, and of course Ohio State winning that game 31-26, and of course later getting that win vacated after the Terrell Pryor and Jim Tressel incidents that went down, this little scandal that went down there. But that was a heck of a game. I was there actually in person for that one. So that was a blast. But there has been so many games that I have watched over my lifetime, and it's been a very short lifetime. But live on TV, live and in person. You can go to national championship games. You can talk about BCS caliber bowl games, even some regular season games that I've watched. Multiple overtime games. I mean, that LSU A&M game was fantastic this past year. 7 overtimes. That was a heck of a game. So that's a tough call. I just need to make a list of the ones that I remember watching and just make a list of maybe my top 10 that I've ever watched, because that's a great question, but one that I really just can't narrow down to just one specific game. Trent Hamilton, good to see you. What do I think about the Volunteers football team next season? Everybody wants to know about the specific team. Not going to give any predictions away, but I will say that the Volunteers are making major steps forward and major strides forward with Jeremy Pruitt. Where did they go? 5-7 this past year. I had them at 4-8. Many people disagree with that, and I was around the ballpark. I mean, they weren't going to go to a bowl game last year. I could have told you that, but I think they can get to a bowl game this year. Jeremy Pruitt, strong recruiting class, a Tennessee team that certainly showed strides down the road, certainly showed improvement, and I think that right now, I would have them hovering around the 6 or 7 win mark. Don't set in stone yet. We're gonna have those predictions coming out later, but I think the Volunteers are certainly on the rise. But in a division with Georgia and Florida and a decent South Carolina team, and now a Kentucky team that is showing major improvements, and a Missouri team that just added Kelly Bryant, this might not be the year where Tennessee breaks through and wins, 8 or 9 games. I don't think that's going to be the case, because I don't think they have enough talent to beat Florida or Georgia, maybe not Missouri yet. So it's going to take some time, but Jeremy Pruitt is the right man for the job, and they are certainly getting there. And the last question, Christopher Smith, Boise State to the Pac-12. Always love conference realignment questions. Boise State, I would love to see them go to a Power 5 conference just because of how well they've dominated in the Group of 5. And we know they are capable of beating Power 5 schools because we've seen them do that on some of the biggest stages, such as BCS or New Year's Six caliber bowl games. And even in the regular season, they opened up the season this year against Florida State, and Florida State being an early favorite in that one. Of course, we're still ways away from that. But I believe that Boise State needs to switch to a conference. Would the Pac-12 be the most appropriate? I don't know. Geographically, probably. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I enjoy seeing Boise State succeed extremely well in the Mountain West, even though they do slip up from time to time. And I enjoy watching them, especially in the regular season, playing some of those Power 5 schools and occasionally pulling off a good big-time upset here and there. So that's just something we'll have to wait and see. These expansions and conference realignments and things like that are things that we all want to see as fans, but take so long and may never even happen down the road. And a lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes that we don't even know about. So we'll have to wait and find out. And that's going to wrap it up for us here at the Gridiron Expert. We had a great, man, I'll tell you what, this is a great live stream. Thank you guys for joining us on this Thursday night. I apologize for not sticking it out on Twitter and getting it out to you guys there. But we appreciate all of your support. For those that subscribe, for those that have donated through Super Chat, for those of you that have contributed through the chat. I mean, this is what, like I said, fuels these videos, fuels these live streams, and we appreciate that more and more every day. So we can't wait to get back on that. We are going to have a couple videos coming out hopefully this weekend for you guys. NFL quarterback rankings. We've got college football quarterback rankings. We've got a handful of videos lined up for you guys, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And make sure you're back here on Sunday night. We'll definitely put that one out on Twitter for another live stream. Bring your questions, bring your topics, bring your concerns as we talk college football all day long on Sunday. So once again, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, Mike Myrick. Thank you, Emperor of Rome, Comic Dude 45, Christopher Smith, and everybody else that joined in the chat today. We will see you guys again on Sunday night. Y'all stay safe out there, and see you next time.